In the next few minutes, I'm going to totally change how you think about your kiddo who's often considered rude, selfish, or otherwise stuck in this bubble of themselves. I'm Dr. Anthony Pellegrino. I'm a neurologically focused chiropractor at the Jersey Shore. And over the past decade, my team and I have gotten to help hundreds of kiddos who are stuck in fight or flight or have neurodevelopmental challenges. Hang until the end because you're not going to believe how simple these hacks are that I'm going to give you to really help your kiddo. So today we're going to be discussing the self-awareness hierarchy of brain development. Now, before we dive into that, what we have to first know is that the brain isn't fully developed at birth. And as it grows and develops, it grows based off of the input that it receives, and it develops more complex tools as the demands of the world increase to be able to socialize, engage, and learn in our world. If you think about the way that the brain develops, at its most basic level, the first really level of self-awareness, awareness of others that I have is at the most important person in the universe. Babies really start to become aware of themselves first. And this awareness of self is the first step to be able to be aware of the universe around us. Once we've really owned ourself, we start to become more and more aware of others. Okay, so we are aware of ourselves first, and then we start to be able to be aware of others in the room and be able to understand this concept outside of ourselves. After we're really able to do that, we start to first be able to develop our ability to express ourselves facially, as well as be able to understand facial expressions as well. And then, and only then, can we start to understand the concepts of emotions and different ways that this play in one. Now, this hierarchy of development is massively important in children and adults that are really struggling in relationships or getting into trouble because of inappropriate responses to their siblings or to their parents or to their teachers or to authority. And when we have deflections in this hierarchy, it shows up in some different ways. Often this child who's stuck down here is going to be really shut down. They're going to be really easily angered. They're going to seem really rude. They're going to struggle to connect with others, and they're not really going to connect well with themselves either. So it's often will be a child who is described, like I said, as rude. But in actuality, they just don't know how to connect with others outside of themselves. So they go through life with this demand of socialization, and this demand of needing to be here while they're stuck down here causes them to go through constantly being in this state of fight or flight. They don't really fully understand how to express themselves facially and how their face ties into the emotions and the different things that they're experiencing because they're so stuck into themselves that they'll often physically look rude. They won't really have any sort of facial expression on their face whatsoever. So oftentimes a kiddo with a deflection in the self-awareness hierarchy, we'll hear parents say things like, I just don't understand. When he's at home, he's the nicest, sweetest kid. When we go into a social setting, people will talk to him and he won't even respond. It's so rude. As a parent, what I want you to think is it's not that your child is rude. They're just stuck in this really primitive state. Their nervous system is in a state of fight or flight. And we'll often meet these children during their exams, and we're seeing that they have retained primitive reflexes. Their gross and fine motor development is off. Their auditory verbal processing, there is a gap there. And so you think about in a social setting, it requires all of these different things. It requires us to be able to visualize unpredictable change. It requires us to be able to take in all of these auditory inputs, to be able to stand still or move around or be able to be dynamic in a setting. And this is a ton of demand that for a child who's not there yet, is going to really, really, really stress them out. So what they're going to do is they're going to collapse to the place where they feel most comfortable, and they're going to collapse in themselves because being aware of others, understanding facial expressions, and understanding emotions of others is something that's a really, really, really big challenge for us. So when we're looking at the kiddo who is struggling with this, our goal isn't to just say that they are rude, but rather it is to understand this rudeness or this inability to make friends or the selfishness or the struggling to pick up emotions. These challenges aren't bad, but what they are windows into how a brain is functioning. And for a kiddo who's stuck down here, I don't want to just go and say, well, you need to be here. You need to be able to understand emotion. Let's get you to do all these different things. Let's get you to socialize. Let's do this. Because that is going to further push them into a state of fight or flight. Now, our number one priority with this kid, and if this is your kid that you're describing, or if you know somebody like this, pay attention. Our number one priority is to assess their nervous system for an underlying neurostructural shift that is causing them to be stuck in a state of fight or flight. If their nervous system is subluxated, if from birth they had a trauma that's impacting the input that's going up to their brain, listen, it doesn't matter what we do. we're constantly going to be stuck in this fight or flight state. They're not going to be able to connect within themselves. They're not going to be able to connect with others because there's just this disconnect between their brain and the body. So our number one priority, and that's where me as a neurologically based chiropractor comes in, is to utilize very gentle, specific neurotonal chiropractic care to be able to gently correct those subluxations, get their body out of a state of fight or flight and into rest and digest. So if you're watching this and you're already doing that, you're under care in our office or an office similar, excellent. That is the number one thing that you need to be doing. Number two is to start to look at the developmental trajectory, the developmental tools. What we know is that the brain, again, isn't fully developed at birth, and we start with, as a baby, using primitive reflexes, which should integrate to allow for higher levels of development, like our movement touch-based portions of our nervous system, our auditory verbal processing, and our visual cognitive processing as well. We need to start to look at that, analyze, evaluate to see where is our child stuck in their brain, and bring in specific neurodeflective training and neurodevelopmental tools to be able to help them start to use more complex areas of their brain so they can better socialize, engage, and learn in their world. When we're doing those two things, now we need to start to look at the individual hierarchies, like this self-awareness hierarchy. And when we see that our child is maybe stuck down here or stuck down here and deflecting off this path, not able to get to these higher levels, we want to implement some right now strategies to be able to help meet them where they're at while their nervous system is developing. Now, a lot of times we always want things to be better yesterday, right? So we're going to want to continue to push them and push them and push them. And we're doing all this work, so they should be able to engage more. I should be able to put them out. I want them to socialize more. And listen, I want to get there too. What we have to remember is that for a kiddo who's stuck down here, anytime we bring in demand that's up here or up here, anytime we bring in demand that's greater than what their body can handle, it pushes them to a state of fight or flight. Now, we want a little bit of stress, kind of think of it like being in a whitewater rapid, just a little bit of whitewater. We don't want to be going off the cliff, because if we're in a state of fight or flight, we will not be able to heal and we will stay stuck here forever. So here are 3 right now strategies that you can start to implement. Number 1, you can start to discuss with their teachers or mentors, anybody who spends a lot of time with them, what is going on, what you're working on, what these challenges are, and what to look for in terms of wins so that they can congratulate them and reward them along the process since they're spending so much time with them. Keep watching this video because we'll address what the wins would look like as we ascend this hierarchy in just a minute. Number 2, we have to remember that any social setting specifically is going to be a very high level of demand. And anytime that this setting becomes unpredictable, it becomes very stressful for our kiddo. So right now, while we're in this healing phase, our goal is to give as much prediction as possible. Increased prediction means less visualization required, and less visualization required means less stress. So what does this mean? I want you to talk to them before going into a social setting about who's going to be there to the best of your ability. Obviously, not everything can be perfectly done. I want you to talk about who's going to be there, what's expected of them. Show them pictures of where they're going. Show them pictures of the people that are going there. Talk about what is going to be happening, how long are we going to be there for. To the best of your ability, give them as much prediction as possible, not just telling them, but anytime that you can show them with pictures or videos or anything else like that, that is a massive win. Now, I know this seems like a lot of work, and it is, but remember, this is a temporary thing that we are doing while our child is healing, while we're doing the work so that we can decrease the demand so that their body can heal. It's a lot of work in the short term for a lot of wins and gains in the long term where our child can really hit some wins. And then third, I always love bringing in some games that we can play to really be able to help our child ascend this hierarchy in a safe setting, playing with his family. And an easy way to work with the self-awareness hierarchy is by playing a charade-like game. So play something like charade. So say like, hey, Johnny, if I point over this, if I do this, what does this mean? Oh, it means that you're pointing at something. If I do this, what does it mean? It means come along with me. Play games where they can start to understand gestures first and be able to understand what those gestures mean. Then bring it into facial expressions. What does it look like, Johnny, when I do this? It means you're happy. What about this? It means you're sad. Now, Johnny, can you show me what a happy face looks like? Can you show me what a sad face looks like? All of this is going to really help decrease this demand and really help our child in a safe setting start to ascend this hierarchy. Now, how do we know that our child is doing better here? And how would we know that they are getting closer to this highest level of development and understanding and self-awareness? Or there's some wins that we want to look out for. Number 1, we want to see them start to make connections with their peers, especially, and this is really important, kids their own age. oftentimes children who struggle with this self-awareness hierarchy will gravitate towards adults or children who are older or children who are significantly younger, because those kiddos who are older or younger, or those adults, use different tools developmentally to be able to communicate with the world. So any gaps or inefficiencies or quirkiness or awkwardness is kind of masked. And typically peers who are older or younger than us are just more accepting of things like quirkiness. So connecting with kids our own age is a big start, is a huge win. We also want to see them start to ask and attend to others without prompts. So instead of us being like, say hello to grandma, say hello to grandma, say hello to grandma, say hello to grandma, when grandma comes over, if Johnny just says hello without prompting, jump up and down, reward, celebrate. That is a huge win. If they say goodbye, if they can start to interact with others without us pushing them to do so, and leave our bubble of ourself and start to address others, win, 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 win. From there, the next win that we typically expect, and again, this isn't perfectly linear, but I'm giving you the order that we would typically expect, is they typically start to have a better understanding of facial expressions. They can tell what it means when you walk into a room and you have a sad face on, or you're pouty, or you're really happy. And they can start to actually change their energy based off of what they're seeing from you. And then beyond that, they can start to ask questions about how you're feeling when they see that facial expression, when they start to actually attune to and get curious about the emotions behind the expressions that they're seeing. That is really, really, really where we know that our child is ascending and using that most complex part of their self-awareness developmental hierarchy. Hope you guys got a ton of good information on the self-awareness hierarchy. Click the video in the corner to learn about our communication hierarchy, one of the most important and popular videos on this series, because what we'll do is explore exactly how your child's brain develops the ability to go from communicating via gestures all the way to expressing themselves, reading and writing, and what you can do to help them along the process. I'll see you there.